It was one of those October nights that felt colder than it should have been, the kind of cold that doesn't bite your skin. It seeps in, slow and heavy, like the air itself is holding its breath. I remember glancing at the clock, 11:47 p.m. The house was quiet. My roommate was out for the weekend, and I had the place to myself. Or at least I thought I did. The weird part, that night everything just felt off. The lights seemed dimmer, the walls creaked more than usual, and even my phone's glow looked colder, somehow. You ever get that sense that something's watching you, but when you look around, there's nothing there? Yeah, it was like that, constant, unshakable. I tried to distract myself, scrolled through my phone, played a few tracks, checked messages, but even the silence between the songs felt wrong. Like there was a rhythm underneath it, a slow breathing. I told myself it was just the wind, but when I muted the audio, I could still hear it. Deep, slow, and definitely coming from inside the house. My first thought was, maybe it's the pipes. Old houses make noise all the time, right, but this house wasn't old. It was barely 2 years built. Then I heard it again, closer this time. One steady inhale, then an exhale. I froze, the kind of freeze where every muscle in your body forgets how to move. It was coming from the hallway. I got up, grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, just barely enough to see the frames on the wall. Nothing moved, nothing sounded, until I called out, "Hello." No response. So I laughed, that nervous laugh people do when they're trying to convince themselves it's fine. "Yeah, okay, I'm losing it," I said out loud, hoping that saying it would make it true. Then my phone buzzed. A notification popped up. Front door motion detected. I've got one of those smart cameras that alerts you when someone's outside. At first, I felt relief. Maybe someone was just delivering something late. But when I checked the live feed, there was no one there. Just my front porch, completely empty, except for one thing, the doormat. It had been flipped upside down. I stared at it, trying to figure out how. The camera hadn't recorded anyone. No person, no animal, just static for 2 seconds. Then clear again, and that's when I noticed something else. In the corner of the porch, behind the railing, something was standing. Not a full figure, just a shape. A shadow that didn't belong, still, perfectly still. I leaned closer to the screen, trying to make it out, and then it moved. Just one step forward, closer to the door, and then the camera feed cut to black. But that wasn't the worst part. When the screen refreshed, the camera feed wasn't showing the porch anymore. It was showing inside the house. I swear my heart stopped. The camera was showing my living room from the inside, but I only had one camera. And it was supposed to be outside. I blinked, thinking maybe the app had glitched, or the Wi-Fi lagged. But no, I could see everything clearly. The couch, the lamp, the hallway leading to my room, and something standing just behind the couch. It wasn't moving, just this tall, dark outline like a person, but stretched. I whispered, "No way, no way," and turned the screen brightness all the way up. That's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. The figure was facing my direction, straight at the camera. For a second, I thought maybe I'd accidentally set up a second feed from an old phone or something. But I checked every setting, only one device connected. That meant whatever I was seeing wasn't a recording. It was live, and it was inside my house. I didn't move for what felt like forever. Every sound, every tiny creak, every breath felt deafening. Then, click, the hallway light flickered on. I jumped up and dropped my phone. When I picked it up again, the screen had gone black. Feed lost. I didn't know what to do, call someone, run. My mind was spinning. Then, from the hallway, a slow, dragging sound. SHHHHKKK SHHHH. KKK like something heavy was being pulled across the floor. I grabbed a kitchen knife, not because I thought it would help, but because doing nothing felt worse. And I started walking toward the sound. The flashlight beam cut through the dark again. The sound stopped. I called out, "If this is some kind of joke, it's not funny." Nothing. Then a soft knock 3 times. Coming from my bedroom door, I stopped breathing. The knocking wasn't hard. It wasn't even loud. It was deliberate. Knock, knock, knocked. I stepped back, trying to keep the phone steady, filming the hallway, because if something was about to happen, I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Then the door handle turned, just a small twitch, but it definitely moved. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I held my breath and whispered, "Who's in there?" And then a voice answered, but it wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from my phone. A whisper, faint, distorted, said, "Don't open it." I froze. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't anyone I knew, and it was coming through the camera app. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor, up, and I saw the feed come back for a split second. But this time, the figure wasn't behind the couch anymore. It was standing in the hallway just behind me. And that's when everything in the house went silent. No hum from the fridge, no ticking clock, not even the wind outside. Just silence so deep it rang in my ears. I didn't move, couldn't. You ever feel that kind of silence that's so thick, it feels like the air itself is holding you down? That's what it was like. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears, then a creak right behind me. I turned around so fast I almost slipped, but there was nothing there. Just the empty hallway, the light flickering every few seconds, and the sound of that slow, heavy breathing again. Except this time, it wasn't far away. It was right next to me. I swung the flashlight toward the sound, and for a split second I saw it. A face, pale, long, hollow eyes that didn't blink, and then it was gone. I stumbled backward, dropped the flashlight, and when it hit the floor, the light stayed pointed underneath the couch. That's when I saw it again. A hand, thin gray, like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. It was reaching out from underneath, fingers twitching like they were trying to grab something. I didn't even think. I bolted for the front door, but when I got there, it was locked from the outside. The deadbolt was turned all the way across. Impossible. I hadn't locked it. My phone buzzed again. Another motion alert. I glanced at the screen, and this time it wasn't the living room feed. It was the front door camera again. Only now there was something standing there, a figure in a black coat, face completely hidden. It wasn't moving, just standing inches from the door, like it knew I was right behind it. And then the voice came through the speaker again, but not from my phone, from the doorbell itself. That distorted whisper, the same one that said, "Don't open it," only this time it said, "Let me in." My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the knife. I backed away, step by step, watching that shadow through the frosted glass. And as I moved, it moved too. Perfectly in sync. That's when I realized it wasn't outside. It was reflecting. There was no one on the porch. That figure I saw through the door was behind me. I turned around, ready to scream, but the living room was empty again. The couch, the hallway, all normal. I was breathing so hard I started to feel dizzy, and then, from the TV, static. I hadn't turned it on, but the screen lit up on its own, white noise hissing across the room, and in that static, faintly, I could see a shape forming. That same face, long, pale, hollow-eyed. It looked straight at me and mouthed 3 words, "You let it in." And then every light in the house went out. Everything went black, not dark like a power outage. This was deeper, like the kind of darkness that swallows sound, too. Even my breathing felt muffled. I held up my phone, the flashlight still on, and it barely cut through the air. It was like the shadows were thicker, heavier than they should be. I took a few steps forward, whispering, "Hello," and somewhere in the dark, I heard it whisper back. My own voice, same tone, same pitch, repeating the word right after me. "Hello," I froze. Then it said something else. "Don't turn around." That's when I dropped the knife. It hit the floor, metal echoing through the dark. I turned anyway. I don't know why, I just had to, and there it was. Not behind me, around me. The shadows had shapes now, arms, faces, dozens of them, shifting like smoke. Every time my light passed over one, it vanished, but in the corner of my eye, they were everywhere. One voice whispered, "We waited." Another said, "You saw it." And a third one, low, rasping, whispered, "Now you're part of it." I stumbled backward, slammed into the wall, and that's when the TV came back on, static again. Only now, the image wasn't random noise, it was me. Standing right there, holding my phone, surrounded by shadows. Except the me on the screen wasn't moving like I was. It was smiling, that wide, lifeless grin, and it slowly lifted a hand, pointing right at the screen. At me, then the sound came back, a deep, distorted voice that shook the walls. "He is here." Every window in the house shattered at once. The lights exploded, and in the middle of the chaos, I felt a hand grab my shoulder, cold, thin. It whispered one last thing before everything went quiet again. October remembers. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The sunlight was cutting through the blinds. Everything looked normal, the couch, the TV, even the doormat outside. For a second, I thought it had all been a dream. Until I saw my phone. It was sitting on the table, still recording. The battery should have been dead, but somehow it wasn't. The video was still running, a 6-hour clip of me sleeping on the floor. I scrubbed through it, heart racing. Nothing moved, nothing strange until the very end. Right before sunrise, the camera caught a figure standing over me. Watching, its face was blurry, but I could still make out the mouth, that same grin. And then it leaned closer to the camera and whispered the same 3 words from before, "You let it in." That's when I deleted the footage. I packed my bags and left that house the same day. The company who built it. They told me I was the 3rd owner to move out that month. The others, they left without saying a word. When I asked if anything had ever happened in the house before, the agent just said every October it comes back. To this day, I don't know what it was. But I know one thing: if you ever hear breathing in your house when you're alone, don't look for where it's coming from. Because if you see it, it sees you too. You'd think that after something like that, I'd move on. New place, new number, new everything. But here's the thing about real horror: it doesn't end when you leave. It follows you quietly. For weeks, I kept telling myself it was over. That whatever I saw in that house stayed there. But then the little things started happening. The motion alert on my phone, even though I never installed new cameras. The faint sound of breathing on calls that no one else could hear. And sometimes, when the screen of my phone goes dark, I catch my reflection looking back at me a second longer than it should. You start to realize maybe it wasn't in the house, maybe it was in the feed. The moment I stared too long at that static, maybe that's when it crossed over. Because now, sometimes at night, when everything's quiet and the glow from my phone lights up the room, I can see it, faintly, standing right behind me. Same pale face, same hollow eyes, always just a step away, and I swear, every October, it gets a little bit closer. So if you're watching this right now, maybe you should check your front door camera. Go ahead, open the app. If the feed glitches for even a second, don't look too close. Don't try to fix it, because that's how it starts. That's how it finds you. Safe to say we're never sleeping in October again.